Alright, hello. Let's do the normal tests. So I want to check that we're actually live before I go any further. Have my coffee, as one would expect. Alright, hello. Let's do the normal tests. Cool. Okay, so we are live. Although I need to actually have that open. I'm not going to be particularly advertising the stream at the moment. Just because nothing particularly amazing is going to go on. What am I kidding? This is amazing. Everything we're doing here is amazing. Okay, so I need to... First of all, you need to be able to see what I'm actually doing. Okay, so before I do that, I have a mini discussion on what is currently going on. As you know, we're working to get the Surface in place, whilst at the same time we're working to get demo versions out. The Linux version of the demo is available to backers already. We haven't made a non-backer version yet, but we will do at some point, so we get a wider test bank, if you will. We're looking into the Mac version, although we haven't got round to actually buying a Mac yet, which we will do soon. So that's that area that's progressing. And recently we've been discussing between ourselves about the concept of control, and as today goes on, I would like to get some views, or even when this goes up on YouTube, I'd like to get some views, what people feel is the right level of control for this game, because we've been discussing a lot internally, and it's quite a contentious issue, and there's no simple solution, especially when we're a team of only 3 of us. So we haven't got the manpower that a normal real-time strategy game would have behind them. So we're only a really small team. But anyway, enough of me rambling on. Let's actually have a look at what's going on with the game build at the moment. As you can see, I've got loads of windows open. I think it'll just... yeah. Cool. Basically, I've just placed a load of these down for testing purposes. And they kind of mess up a little bit because they're slightly on top of each other. But they should free themselves as time goes on. Okay, so what we have here is the standard underground that people are used to. Oh yeah, the mini-map as well. That's come along a bit. If you've been following our tweets and things, you'll have noticed that. And the also kind of looking at the surface. Now, this is basically one of the options we have with control, which is to do control on the surface similarly as we have underground. You alright, Mike? So if control on the surface is similar to what we have underground, I was setting up a test with this, and if we right click on the surface now, what we should see is the ants actually come out of their mound and head towards the point that we've assigned down there. And basically, under that control scheme, the ants will do, they'll exactly the same as we had underground. It's really difficult to see their legs when it's not full screened. There we are. Sometimes look like they're floating. So yeah, under that method, this is kind of the replica of the underground movement, if you will. But it's not a replica. It is the same system. If I turn that off, they should slowly make their way back underground. Yeah, we haven't actually got an animation for them going into their tunnel yet, and there's a couple of them that are a little bit buggy. I know why that is. I actually know why that is. And it's yeah. But yeah, it's kind of under that control scheme. The other concept is that you have less control on the surface. Yeah, well that's the thing. The other option is to have less control on the surface than you currently have at underground. And the armies would automatically run into each other, so you would literally not have any control. You wouldn't right click to put them anywhere. You would just say, right, I want I want these ants to attack, and that group of ants will go to the surface and they'll run straight towards the enemy and try and clash into them automatically. Both systems have got pros and cons. Walking up onto the stones then. Yeah, both systems have got pros and cons. Don't think we want any more control than a single point. I think people appreciate the de-emphasis of micro of this game. But the yeah, so we're not sure, and it's kind of a discussion that's going on internally at the minute. Yeah. See, that's my feeling on it, is that the single point control gives you enough control to actually feel like you have the say in what your colony's doing, but not so much that that you have to start really concentrating on the micro. So yeah, I need to get the ants a bit more responsive as well. I think that some of them are a bit slow on the old response time. Since the rest of the game should be about composition. Yeah, whether you attack or not. Yeah, I agree. Now the issues with the controls, with giving any sort of control, as soon as we... Oh gosh, what was happening there? Oh, the minimap doesn't work on the surface. It works underground fine, but it doesn't work on the surface at all. But anyway, yeah. The issues with giving any sort of control on the surface. So, for example, here we've got a nice big map. What is that? Oh, I know what that is. An ant's actually managed to get on top of the tiles. Great, that'll be him transferring from above and below ground. Either way. So yeah, with having kind of a single point of control, you might start to try and I think he's gonna get stuck. Yeah. You might start to try and avoid the enemy army maybe and go around the side. I mean, this map's probably too big, to be honest. I made this huge. And we don't really want people trying to go around the side. We'd rather have them clashing. But at the same time, the enemy AI can be designed to do that for you, because we're making a single player campaign, and the enemy AI can always head to the point that your army's at, so you can't avoid the clash. It's not an easy one to answer. There's other issues as well, like attacking the enemy supply lines. So if I add a few workers in, I don't think there's any in the game at the moment. Oh, there's an error message. I suspect that's to do with the error message came up there. Access to none, trying to read. Call to arms. It's just because there's no trying to read call to arms. So yeah, it's this. I need to just add a check to see if there is one. Is call to arms on the surface? Oh no, I can see how this could happen. Yeah, there does need to be a check to see that the call to arms actually exists here. Yeah, controller, cast a creature, get player controller, get home nest call to arms. So here, I just need to add a quick is valid. If it is valid, we can go on to do that. Else we just fail. Okay, I'll go to those errors. So yeah, it's a tricky one. And I'm kind at the moment. I kind of want to set up a test to have this single point. Control, if you will. It's kind of verified to myself that it'll work. Right, so yeah, if I put some workers in the underground. It's in the levels. So I need to create some workers that are linked to the underground. So I just need a handful of workers. It's 1, 2, 3. To be fair, considering I'm testing, I don't actually need to link them. As long as they alright, they've not got a property, so they're whinging at me. Oh course, they've all been linked up properly now. I actually have to give them a property. It takes a while. Yeah. I feel I need to set up a test and actually try this out. See if it works. And watch people try and make exploits and things. Okay, so I need to link these workers to their properties. So I need to stop selecting the fog sheet. Tenant. Worker. You know what? It'd be much easier just to start with a single one. Let's have a single worker and they can spawn the rest. This is tile 289. Okay, so he's linked up to his thing now. At some point I need to make an automatic system to do that. Okay, so yeah, the worker's busy putting all the eggs in place now. So what I'm going to be doing here is setting up some basic tests. These different control methods need testing. I mean, the difference between the two control concepts is relatively easy to flip between, because with no control at all it's saying is that, you know, that thing is always on the enemy mound. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay. So in order to test this, I'm actually going to need some enemies. Now the enemy currently does have units, and I set up, I gave it a behaviour tree just before I came on stream. So here's the computer player's behaviour tree. As you can see, it's a gloriously complicated behaviour tree. But what I need them to be able to do is to be able to place their call to arms marker on your tunnel. So then the enemy will automatically run at your tunnel. So, with no decision making, let's just make that a thing. So what it'll be is just a single task that places their call to arms marker on your tunnel. it's a really long name. But yeah, essentially that's all I want the computer player to do at first. So this actually may be more complicated than I'd hoped. Okay, so first of all, it needs to... Right, I need to look at the way that the current call to arms markers are being placed. So if we're going to the blueprints... It's in here. So that's the mouse being released. So what is it actually getting? Still go out. So that's saying if you right click on an underground tile or in a landscape, it gets the player controller, casts it to a EOTU controller. Okay, so that's the first step. I want to get player 1's player controller. Just waiting for the random pitch change in the hatching sound to accidentally make the Mario music one day. Easter egg. Okay, so get player controller. What's it doing? Cast it to an EOTU player controller. Get home nest call to arms. See, I don't know if this will work, but we'll see. We will see. Putting in some test text there, so if it messes up, I'll know where it's messed up. Get home nest call to arms. Right, so a branch here, just to make sure. Again, some text to let me know where it messed up. Not valid. C2A. Okay, so what's the next step? Right. So then, with the next step, I'm going to copy it because I CBA TBH. So, if it is valid, it spawns an actual location, else, what is it? Else it sets the active location, so it moves it. Conflicting nodes substituted during paste. So, okay, so yeah, it's this. So it's just set actor Location. Right, so basically it moves it if it doesn't exist. If it does exist, it spawns it. You know what I mean. Make transform. Okay, so the location that I need to take it from is actually the enemy's nest. So, yeah, this is something I need to... we need to go to the pawn. Computer player pawn. I need to give this a player ID, owner ID. Okay. So that's, I've made that visible externally, and now I basically need to I now need to set that when it spawns. So I can either do that on the pawn, or I could do that on the AI controller. The pawn makes most sense. Actually, it's been placed in the world, isn't it? Yeah. So there's the computer player pawn. I just want to give it an ID of 1. Okay. Save. Okay, now I should be able to control pawn. It's not a spectator pawn. Player. That's the computer player pawn. There we are. Okay, so I use that to get the player ID. Get owner ID. Currently the game's set up to have 2 enemies fighting against each other. 2 sides, if you will. So I'll just get, if the owner ID is 1, it will get 0. If it's 0, it will get 1. So if it's equal to 0, I'll make something. Selected enemy. Yeah. This will do for now. Have to come back to it at some point. If it's equal to 0, then it selects 1, else it selects 0. Okay, so I need, basically I'm trying to get hold of your tunnel, of the player's tunnel. Yeah, as Harmonic Clone says, you can actually still support it. Yes, the new copy of the game will have the... You'll get an unlock code, is probably how we'll do it, for both copies of the game. So you can claim it on both copies. So it's setting the selected enemy. Actually, no, that needs to go before there. Sorry. We can actually do this quite early on in the chain. No, hang on. I need that error message. Okay, so I'm trying to get the... The first thing it'll do when it comes in here now is choose the enemy. Choose the enemy. At some point that's going to have to be looked at again, because this is currently just set up to be a binary. One player or the other. We'll come back to that. Okay, so once it's set the enemy, carries on through the chain. So what we want to do is we want to get the game state. And this game state has all sorts stored in it, including your tunnel. Get max resources, soldiers, workers. Trying to think where I've done this before. If I look in the soldier behavior tree, there's a couple of things that are disconnected at the moment. Transfer to surface probably does it. So what does that do? That gets the game state and gets tile grid by player ID. That's what we're looking for. Honestly, I've got too many things open at the moment. Okay. So what did I just say? Get tile grid by player ID. Okay, so I need to get the tile grid of the selected enemy. And I also need to... that can be a pure cast. Pure cast basically means you never expect the cast to fail, because in our game there's only one game state, and that's the OTU game state. So we want to get, again, a tunnel. Get underground tunnel. And then the underground tunnel has something called a... it's got a variable on it. Tell me if I click on this. Player 0, tunnel target. It's called surface point. So that's what I'm after. The surface point. Okay. Oh, hang on. Probably need to cast this. Yeah, it's just an actor. Cast to tunnel. Surface tunnel. Underground tunnel. What's it called? It is a underground tunnel exit. Okay, so we're casting that to an underground tunnel exit. Again, that can be a pure cast. It's not going to fail. We need its surface point. Okay. So we have the surface point, which is where we want to target. But this is whether or not we have any of that. So this wants to go in between there. So once it's got its home nest call to arms, actually maybe after that, play controller. It's fine for it to happen here. Blueprints can get very messy. Eventually we'll be moving the stuff that's in the blueprints into code, but we're keeping them in blueprints whilst we're working with them and debugging them. Time to put the word out about the cast, I think, John. Yeah, we could do. I can just leave a Facebook post about the stream. I'll tweet about it as well. Why not? Get a few more people in the channel. Don't want to pretend to people that this is going to be. This is going to move along at kind of a steady pace. You're not going to see any amazing developments happen instantly. So we've got this surface point. That is where I want them to place their call to arms. So I kind of just want to get location. What is it? It's a transform. Can I get the whole transform? Doesn't look like it. Oh, let's get active transform. There we are. And on this one, we just need to set its location, because it's already got one. Okay. This is actually cast to. Right, so I need to. Right, okay. There's still a few things that need to be done here. It's call to arms. So yeah, that's needs to go in there. Location is -1. That's basically telling it that it's on the surface. That's what that all that little digit there at the end is doing. It's right next to the microphone. Sorry about that. It's a problem with sending out a tweet. I'll just turn that off. I'm giving you all a headache. Okay, so I have no idea whether this is going to work or not. It's encouraging, isn't it? Well, that would be an issue. What have we got? Blueprint EOTU controller. Target must have a connection. TU player controller reference. Ah. Right, okay. EOTU player controller. Right, I am sure we're going to hit an issue now. I don't think player 1 has a controller. Sure we're going to hit an issue here. And that is bad practice as well. It should be here. That should be plugged into it, but this is getting silly now. I'm going to need to go back through this and neaten this up, but I really don't think this is going to work. Right. Finish execute. You know what? Let's not have that as a pure cast. So I think what's going on here is we currently don't have a player controller set up for the computer. At the moment we're trying to set up a test for the overground. I'll show you in a minute just the basics of what's going on. I'm trying to set up a test environment, if you will, for the overground, just to try out the control schemes. Not an controller. Okay. Okay, we're pretty sure we're just going to hit an issue as soon as I launch this. Well, that's new. Clicked on output log and it's hanging. Right. Okay, so I know what this is. I know what that is, and that's these basically doing nothing. It's because they've been spawned on top of each other. I need to space them out a bit, to be honest. Okay, to do that, I'm just going to delete them all. then put them back on in a more sensible way. Black ants. Okay, so I'm just going to put some black ants on in a more sensible way. Okay. Copy him. We don't need a huge amount actually for this. Let's use tile grid 0. Right. So yeah, that's my tile grid. There we are. There's the computer's tile grid. Okay, I'll shove him. I'll give the computer a few black ants as well. These are owned by player 1. Don't want to give him too many. Of course, the other way of doing this is just to have the computer AI not follow the same behavior tree as my ants AI, but I'd rather do this properly. Okay. So now we shouldn't have all that rubbish coming out of the output log. Yeah, cool. Okay, so the ants are wandering around a little bit. Plonk that down over there. They wander towards that area. If I go to the surface, plonk it down on the surface. Yeah, the ants come out of the mound, and we need to come up with a nice texture for the mound. We will do. But the enemy's not obviously not doing anything. So first thing to of course, it hasn't even been put into his behavior tree. So this is what did we call it? We called it Summit with call to arms in. Place call to arms on enemy overground tunnel. Okay, so basically what the computer's behavior tree is doing is just going into itself and going, right, place the call to arms on the enemy tunnel. Now this isn't going to work. In fact, I won't be surprised if it crashes the whole editor. Okay, so it gave us the problem. Didn't crash the editor, thank goodness. But yeah, it's here. And the reason is that I don't think one's actually spawned for the computer. So if we look in the world outliner, what is it? EOTU, player controller. So there is one there. But there's only one. There's not a computer one. So we need a computer player controller. So, currently the max players are defined there. What is it in EOT player controller? I'm assuming it's just a player controller. Okay, so we need to find the point in the code where this is actually spawned. Whilst it's doing that, I'm going to get a coffee. Back in a sec. Right, back again. Coffee simulator. Okay. So there's plenty of places in the solution where it is that it doesn't actually come up, but I'm looking for where it's actually spawned. Game mode sounds like a promising location. Alright, I think we may have found it. Find player start, implementation. So, restart player. I wonder where that's called from. I mean, is it called anywhere else in this? It wasn't me that did this area, that made this area of the code, so I'm unfamiliar with it. Player start not found, failed to restart player. Find player start. So it's looking for a specific name actually. Incoming player start tag. So find player start implementation. Where's that pulled from? I think the enemy needs to be set up as a proper enemy, rather than at the moment the computer just has no internal thinking. So we haven't needed it up until this point where we're actually coming into the colony on colony battles now. So I'm speaking to the chap who's developed this section of it. Okay, so in order to set this test up then, because we're not going to get that properly sorted today, we need to do a separate AI, if you will, for the computer player. Not for the computer player, for the computer soldiers. Because they're basically going to, in order to test this, the basics of this, we need the computer soldiers just to run straight for your exit. So in order to do that, I need them to behave differently if they are a computer player. This is just to set up a test. Than if they are a human player. Or if they, behave differently if they're player 0 to player 1. Should be really simple to set up. Okay, so in order to set this test up, I'm going to create a decorator, which is basically something you add to a branch of a behavior tree to say, does it go down this branch or doesn't it? And I'm just going to have it. If it's a computer creature, it will not go down the call to arms branch and will go down a different one instead. So to do that, I'm going to need a new decorator. Just do the base class. Call it am I player 0. That's not quite right. It should be am I owned by player 0. I just need to relog into the version control software. Oh no, I know what that issue is. It's nothing to do with the version control software. And it'll keep complaining at me now until I restart at UE4. Am I owned? I mean, technically, you could do the game this way, and you could have a completely separate branch of the behavior tree when it's controlled by one thing, but it is cheap coffee. It's very cheap coffee. I drink so much of it, I have to have cheap coffee. Okay, so this is just a temporary thing, but I'm going to add the decorator onto here. My owned by player 0. So that'll be the first decorator it encounters. And if true, it goes down that branch of the behavior tree. In fact, this one as well needs that same decorator on it. I don't want them returning to their underground if they're not controlled by player 0. Okay. So what we want now is what we want the computer to do. So a computer ant, we want to head to the surface anyway if it's underground. So selector. With the same thing on it, although it's inverse this time. So it's not. Hang on, we need to actually code this. Condition. Actually, what I meant to do. We want to override the condition check. Actually. Instead, let's override the condition check AI. Okay, so cast to creature. So it's a creature, and basically if it's get owner ID, if it's equal, and it basically is going to return, if it's equal to 0 it will return true, if it's not equal to 0 it will return false. Okay, so that should have solved that one. So we now need a series of conditions. So if the computer player is in their base, then they need to head to their exit. If they are on the surface, then they need to head to the enemy's exit. So, similar to this, am I on surface? So it's a sequence. With a decorator asking the ant whether it's on the surface or not. And we're going to have exactly the same here, but inversed. Shift these out of the way for now. I don't want to delete these yet because they might come in handy. So if it's not on the surface, it needs to follow this. It needs to do that. So has a check to see if there's any enemies nearby. If there's not, it targets its underground exit. It moves to that target and then transfers to the surface. If it's already on the surface, it needs to target the enemies. I think I'll already have a task for this. Target the enemy's overground exit. Swarm to the target. Right, let's see if that worked. I say it's going to complain at me until I restart the editor. But basically, what I'm expecting to see is the enemy. Yeah, okay, the enemies have left their own exit and they're now heading for mine. If I do that, we should clash. Okay. So here we've got a basic overground test, and so basically what the enemy's going to do is they're always just constantly, if they have units, they're going to constantly walk towards you. So what I want to do now is set up an increasing... Yeah, it's good to be back. What I want to do now is set up an increasing amount of enemies. Currently, the game's not properly set up to have 2 fully functional undergrounds, and I won't drag you through the process of me going through and fixing all of that. I will do that myself at some other point. But for now, we can set up a wave-based system where the enemy will spawn a load of ants underground at certain time intervals in the level. Now, I've been thinking about this and how a level will be controlled, because a level's going to need some overall direction itself. Before, when I was working on the demo levels, I was just using the level blueprint, which is all well and good, but I think I would rather I would rather have our own entity to be the level director, if you will. So I've been intending to set this up for a while, and all it's going to be is it's just going to be an actor. So it will sit in the world, it'll have no physical presence, but it will have options on it for level setup and whatnot. So I'm going to create something which is going to control the level as a whole. Okay. So to do this, just in the blueprint, just a new actor. We'll call it I'm going to call it the level director. Okay, so now overall I think this is going to need to have information such as how many players are in the game, and that sort of thing in it, and it will take that probably from the game state. But what I want this essentially to be is a list of how the level's going to progress. So to start with, what I'll do is I'll have the enemy colony spawn a certain amount of ants every 30 seconds or so within their base. And we'll have that ever increasing. So a wave based system similar to the Bacchus demo. And it'll feel more like an enemy colony sending it at you rather than it just coming through a tunnel. So if we're going to create kind of waves, we'll have a variable. It's just going to be an integer. We'll call it wave number. Now we're not going to have anything at the top of the screen like we did before. That we want this to feel a lot more organic. I'll also add an element of randomness onto it, so it's not predictable when the wave's going to come out at you. Okay. So essentially on wave number 0 makes sense to start with. We're also going to have a timer. I'll just create one. That'll be a float. Actually, I'll call it wave timer because we might need some other timers on. Wave timer. Okay, so what's going to happen is every tick we're going to enter this sequence. So the first thing I'm going to do is store that. Because we'll need that multiple times, I suspect. Okay. What currently with what we just set up, those ants will immediately head to the surface and then head to attack you. They will just literally go for an attack. And this is just part of setting up this test. Ultimately, we'll probably use a combination of the enemy sending attack groups at you, and them just kind of respawning their normal army. So depends on the level. Different levels will have different feels to them. Of course, as well, something else I want to try out today is putting some insects on the surface as well. Put some Devil's Coach horse larvae wandering around the surface to kind of give it an element of danger without the enemy colony sending anything at you. Although when we do that, we will also need to come up with a way of worker ants dealing with it. So do they retreat back to their colony? Do they fight? These are important questions, and they're the kind of things that we're going to have to encounter and confront as we find them. This is the enemy colony at the moment. I'm actually going to remove these because I'm not using them anymore. Am I using them? I don't think I'm using them. I'll leave it there for now. I'm going to make a mound for the enemy so this looks a bit better. We'll just sculpt the terrain a bit. Oh, no, I shouldn't edit it on this, actually. Sorry. I should actually go to the surface area itself and edit it. Test surface level. Surface. I don't want to save that. Actually, the thingy will fail. Yeah, doesn't matter. I'm gonna need to restart the editor in a second anyway to stop that blooming message coming up. Any thoughts on... Oh, it's crashed. Sometimes it crashes. Well, at least I got to restart the editor. Any thoughts? Oh, okay, hang on. Let's go back. I think you're making it so multiple spawns will cooperate. Multiple spawns will cooperate to make for a bigger wave. As increased difficulty. Yeah. We either increase the wave size or increase the frequency of the waves coming out, or you could have different other waves. I mean, there's lots to play with, and the idea of having a campaign means that each level have something unique to it. So some of them you will get attacked in kind of waves. Other ones maybe it's a constant attack upon you. Other ones you'll get attacked by other insects. So yeah, there's lots we can do, and we will do as we get into designing these levels. Any thoughts into the transition between surface and underground? Had an idea of a very quick camera move where you split for a split second, move camera up, cut to surface, moving up. Yeah, that's actually kind of what I've got in my head, so it feels more like you're actually going up rather than it just flashing to the other side. It'd have to be very quick. See, what I would love to have is it start to move up and the surface fade in, but I actually think that would be quite an expensive effect, so it's probably not worth having that. But we could certainly have a slight camera motion as before the camera flips. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, I wanted to make some changes to the surface. This is a huge surface map, by the way. It's way too big. So, kind of just give the enemy a mound as such. Maybe that is too close. Back to here, maybe. Smooth that out. Ah. That's alright, we can have some bumpiness. Yeah, the expense of a fade is probably not worth it, but a very quick camera move makes sense. Yeah, I think so. Oh god, that's it's more like a mountain than a mound. Let's knock that down a bit. Yeah, it's fine. That is fine. Okay. So let's go back to the overall level that's got everything in. Alright, so we got those two mounds. Now I just need to move this. This is the thing that gives the basic mound location. These things were spawning points, but I've changed the way that works now. So instead, you just spawn at a random location near the mound. So you could spawn anywhere on the mound. And the idea will be is that the ants kind of crawl, like they kind of burrow out from the mound. We need to come up with a nice mound texture as well, so it looks more like an ant mound. Okay, so where's the enemy? What are they doing? What are you doing? Where are they? We appear to have lost the enemy. Oh! Did you see them? Oh, that was weird. I think, for a start, navigation probably needs to be rebuilt. Yeah. But the enemy just basically fell through the map then. Oh, fun times. Okay, yeah, we're fine now. We've rebuilt the navigation. Yep. Okay. So we have... I need to go back to what we were doing, which was kind of working with their level, with the level spawner. The level director, sorry, is what I called it. Okay. It's got a warning. Sequences no valid input. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is increment the... Each time it comes in, it will... Oh, it's an integer, it needs to be a float. It will increment the wave timer. So the wave timer will equal it's not actually what I meant to do. You kind of want a plus equals. No, incrementing is not an option. We will instead just do a float plus float. It's going to be wave timer plus delta seconds. So basically the timer will go up by the amount of seconds that have passed. Okay, so that's the first thing that's going to happen in the level. Actually, it's going to go down. Sorry. And it's going to have an initial value set. So the first wave can come at you after 20 seconds. That's very quick. Just setting up tests. We can change all this. Okay, so next thing it's going to do, it's going to check to see if the timer is reached 0. So this is a branch. Which condition will be if it's less than or equal to 0, then we need to launch a wave. If not, we don't need to do anything. So we need to set the timer to some value, random value maybe. Okay. So this returns a random value between 0 and 1. And then we multiply that by how much we want the randomness to be. So the randomness, we could say the randomness is for 10 so basically we've got some random value between 0 and 1 and we're multiplying it by 10. So at maximum it can be 10, at minimum it can be 0. And then we're going to set the wave timer to this random value plus an amount which we want to be the minimum. So the minimum I want that float to be (20 seconds). Like I say, at the moment all we're doing is setting up tests. So what this is doing is set wave timer for next wave. Next thing we want to do is we want to increment the wave number. So that adds 1 to the wave number, and then we're going to use that wave number to determine how many ants we're going to spawn. So you're going to probably want, well, for a start we can just have it spawn the same amount as the wave number to keep it nice and simple. So I think it's called spawn. Spawn actor from class. Maybe not. Okay, you're gonna give me 1 second here. I'm gonna look this up. In the nurseries. That's blueprints. Construction. Right, in here I've got an example of spawning. So it is spawn actor from class. Oh, spawn AI from class, sorry. Okay. So what we need here is the pawn class, which is the black ant. behavior tree, soldier behavior tree. There's also some stats I need to set up. That's a pawn reference, so we need to, that needs to be cast to creature. I think I can just cast it to a creature, can't I? Yeah, cast a creature. I need to set the owner. So it's owned by player 1, it's the computer. We need the location. So this is me getting the location of where to spawn the actor. Now, I could put an actor down in the world and use it as a reference and say, this is the spawn location where the enemy's going to spawn. Or I could just get their queen and spawn it near their queen. That's probably easier. So I'm going to get the queen. I'm going to get the queen's location, and then I'm going to get a random location near the queen, so they don't all spawn onto the same area as such. Although, I don't actually need to cast it to anything, I only need its location. Okay. I've got the actor location, and now I need a random point on the nav mesh, so that's the navigation system. So basically make sure when they spawn they can actually walk. Random, not reachable, point on navigation radius. Okay. So we've got a location, a radius of 500, rotation, 0, 0, 0 is probably fine, because we won't be able to see the ants at the point they spawn anyway. Okay, so the next thing we need to do actually needs to be a for loop. First index is actually wave number. Okay, I'm going to have to drag these further on now. Right, Nunchan. Sorry, we're still. I'm going to be here for another hour or two. Hopefully, we'll be able to get a decent test set up on the surface by the end of it, and possibly even playable. Like, as in, you could start a game and play it and try and beat it. We will see. We'll see what we can achieve. First index is 0. It's that's the last index. Sorry. Yeah, so it goes from 0 to wave number. And for each one, it finds a location. It spawns an enemy ant. Okay, cool. that should do it, actually, I think. Let's have a look. Let's see what that is actually done. First of all, let's delete the black ants in the enemy base, because I don't want the... Oh, flipping heck, I've made that the camera zoom around too quick. Okay, so I don't want the enemy to start with any. Oh, nice to leave one in. But basically, now every 20 seconds or so, they should spawn one. Let's jump out of the. Let's have a look. Problem is, we're not going to be able to. Tell if it's spawned any. I should have made it come out with a message as it's spawning them. It's my fault. I think it should have happened by now. Yeah, this is going to take me a minute to figure out what's wrong. Okay, first of all, let's have some text come out, just so we know it's actually happening. Spawning ant. Before I do that, I'm going to reduce this timer so we're not waiting forever. 3, 4, 5. No. I can actually shove in a breakpoint. Some breakpoints to see if we're actually getting anywhere. Did I actually add the... Oh. I haven't added one into the level, have I? I created this... level director class, but I don't think I actually added it into the level. No, I didn't. Oops. Well, it's in now. Okay, so we know that's ticking now. We can be sure of that. Right, so after roughly 5 seconds, we should get spawning out. Unfortunately, it seems to have spawned them in my base. Interesting. Interesting. I'm going to get another coffee. I'll leave this happening. What we should get is another couple of ants spawn in a second. Yeah, there we go. What's happened? Oh dear. Where are they all off to? You know what's happening there? Is they're basically heading as close as they can to their exit, which is on the other side of the map, and then assuming they got there. Oh, that's quite pretty. Alright, so where were we? Digging up the whole nest. Not sure if an ant queen would be like. Okay, reading some of what you're saying. Sorry, I got myself a bowl of soup as well 'cause I'm starving. Yeah, no, the demo. Thanks anyway. Will there be a demo with the Surface as well at some point? John, why are there like half the comments on IndieDB waiting approval? Being able to stroke your queen like she were a good dog. Like black and white. Not sure the ant queen would like that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure an ant queen would be very opposed to being stroked, to be honest. Gently digging up the whole nest. Right, okay, so where were we? Right, for a start, they're spawning by the wrong queen. We can fix that one. So there, that should fix that one. Secondly, sorry. Secondly, they're actually spawning. The thing on their back's not meant to be that colour. Although I'm not entirely sure how I can fix that, because basically I need to be able to change a variable on them before they spawn. It's not something I'm going to worry about at the moment. We'll come back to it. Right, so now they should actually be spawning at the enemy base. One would hope. I also need to give the enemy the ability to go into my nest. For a moment I won't have it. Camera's already fast. She's be able to whee. That's the Surface. This is the enemy nest. Okay, so that is functioning now. And they head towards the Surface, I believe. The first ones have already arrived. Okay, so now basically here we have every 20 seconds, every 20 to 30 seconds we'll get one more ant spawning. And heading straight for the player's nest. That's alright for now. What else do I need to set up? Right. Something I wanted to do was have it not necessarily start until you go to the Surface. Basically, when the level starts, you'll be underground, and you'll have a surface exit, but it won't be open. And you'll have the choice of when you want to open that. Now, when you open it, obviously things get a lot more dangerous, and because you can be attacked from the surface then. But at the same time, it's kind of a risk-reward thing, because the surface will have resources like this fish, like large resources that will take you that'll last a long time. The surface will also have larger enemies to take down, and then you can consume them as well. Okay, so let's give the enemy the ability to get into your base. So if I look at their behaviour tree, it's AI. Come on, John. Focus. I'm guessing I can't dig the underground until I exit to the enemy base and kill their queen, commando style. Yeah, the underground sections are disconnected, and the only way you can access them is through the surface. Still might be there'll still be enemies underground. Not sure whether we'd have an enemy colony underground, like in the demo. In your underground area, maybe there'll be some levels where you have a kind of contested colony underground that you have to deal with, as well as stuff going on above ground. That kind of be a level by level decision. I mean, we do have a campaign document that kind of roughly goes over how we want the game to progress. But throwing that sort of thing in on missions will be an option as we develop the levels and test them. So I need the soldier behavior tree. Okay, specifically for enemies at the moment. Although maybe I should do it for mine as well. Although at the minute there is no specific control method for telling your colony to go into the enemy base. It'll probably be just if you put your we're investigating different control methods at the moment. And we're deciding whether we want the player to have the level of control they've got in the demo on the surface, or whether we want to take away some of that control on the surface and have it so the colonies are just automatically clashing with each other. So in that case, it's even less intensive for the player. They've just got to decide what ants they want to build and which ones they want to harvest resources. Or whether we just have a single point like we have underground, that you want your colony to go to that point. At the moment I'm experimenting with the single point. And if we have a look, so yeah, there's the single point navigation to, and our ants will head to that. But if we put that on the surface, yeah, they will come out of the nest and head towards it. Oh, but of course, if they see an enemy, they'll ignore it and just run over and deal with the problem. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna make it so the enemy can get into my base. So to do that, sorry, chicken bone in the soup. Yeah, ants. There's plenty of ants that have nests on beaches. Obviously, when you're talking about ants, it's very difficult to kind of pin down any individual thing, because they're not just one thing. There's hundreds of different, thousands of different types of ant. different species, and we all have crazy, massively different traits. So yeah, there are ants that nest on beaches. And that's going to be part of the game, is that there's multiple different environments, and you kind of start on a beach and you travel through a forest and then a jungle environment and desert, scorched earth kind of environments. So there's multiple different stuff. Multiple different environments planned, and we've got a couple of them. Beach is one of the tile sets that we have done, and we've also got the kind of basics of the jungle tile set in place, but there's still a lot of work to do on those. But yeah, the different types of ant, we're trying to represent multiple different species in the game in some way. So we've basically gone through nature and looked at the different types of ant there are and which ones have fascinating traits and abilities. And there's like a wood ant, for example. There's a species of wood ant which fire acid from their abdomen at range. So they're planned to be in the game. There's trapjaw ant, which fling themselves away from danger with their jaws, and they've also been known to fling other insects that are attacking them away from them because their jaws just open so quick. And all these different types of ant we want to be in the game in some way or form. So there'll be a good representation of different ant species through the game. Okay. Keep losing track of what I'm doing. So this is the target, enemy, OG exit, swarm to target. If it successfully gets out of that, we want to transfer. Ooh. Transfer to my underground. No. I'm going to need to make a new task, I think. Transfer to enemy underground, probably. Yeah. And this will only require a small change to. Yeah, you'll be able. The idea is you'll be able to have the multiple different species within your one colony. It's kind of the game mechanic we're introducing for the campaign, is that. But you'll be able to. There'll also be a skirmish mode where you'll be able to just try it as a single colony as well. If you wanted, kind of the idea of skirmish mode is you'll be able to set up the level how you want. Still looking at the idea of having like a sandbox mode as well. Maybe just a simple one where what happens is you're just given an area of ground and just random intervals, groups of insects spawn, maybe another ant mound appears somewhere, and just kind of has random events happening. So you, rather than actually a specific objective. Different ideas. Right, so not transfer to my overground, it's transfer to enemy underground. And I need to edit this. So get, right, so basically we need it to be if it's equal to 0, I'm going to add a variable in here. Enemy player. It's just going to be an integer. So it's equal to 0, enemy player equals 1. That's 0. Okay. Then basically, rather than, yeah, that. So that should basically hit the opposite player to you. Okay, so that should give the soldiers the ability to invade. Hello? See what's happening. I need to come up with a way, solution to that. Alright, so that works. Now what's happening here, and why the ants didn't all appear at the same time, is because the way I'm spawning them at the moment is basically they're spawning at a point on the navigation mesh. Now the navigation mesh, this is all going to sound like rubbish, you're not going to know what I'm talking about, some of you might. But essentially, the navigation mesh, if I press P, it will show me where the navigation mesh is. So underground, that's basically what the ants use to move around, and that's the area that they can move. It's the same on the surface. But if you look at the mounds here, the navigation mesh kind of goes underneath the mound, and if I go underneath it and look up, it's not broken. There isn't any point in the mesh that it breaks, but it but it's kind of just a simplification that's used, because the navigation mesh is just kind of a basic overview. So if the ant actually spawns underneath here, it's going to fall through. I need to come up with a solution to that one. Really? What I want is a point on the terrain, not a point on the navigation mesh. But using a point on the navigation mesh does have its uses. Because it means, like, if there's a stone nearby that's unnavigatable, it will deal with that. It's something I'm going to have to deal with at some point. I'm not going to bore you with dealing with it at the moment. What I will do instead that's actually raising it. It's not what I wanted. Let's undo that. Make it a little bit more robust. But it is something I'm going to have to deal with. Probably do for now. I should have done that. Edited up. Appears to have saved though anyway. Need to rebuild the lighting. Empire of the Ants. Yeah, it does seem to have been so long, and there was an Empire of the Ants wasn't without its problems. It had quite a lot of bugs, no pun intended. So yeah, but technology's moved on now, so small studios can actually do this sort of thing. I mean, this would be so hard to do without an engine. Okay. Right, something I want to look into is what happens when workers get attacked on the surface. To send workers to the surface at the moment, there's a basic chamber assignment thing, which should eventually cause workers to arrive. Although it won't be for a while. Oh, they can't get close enough now. I've dropped the height. Yeah, I know what I need to do to fix that. Swarm to target. Yeah, I'm going to turn the swarm off for now. I'm just going to use a move too. And it's going to be a location. I'm also going to, so what's that? Target enemy overground exit. I'm going to make them target an area near the exit rather than the exit point itself. So I'll do that now. I'm going to duplicate this and call it target near. So it's not an exact thing. I actually think this would be in general. Okay, so instead of an exact location, I want a random location on the nav mesh near to it. Wow, this is a confusing tree. Oh, I see what I've done. That's not a very good way of doing it, to be honest. Because basically I've repeated the same thing top and bottom. Yeah. I'm going to do this the same way I've been doing it on the other ones. So, enemy player. This is going to be an integer. So, I'm going to redo the way this is working. Actually, I'm going to redo quite a bit of this. Event receive execute AI. Here we are. So instead of receiving execute, it's going to use receive execute AI because that. We can go in there now. Get rid of that. So it comes in here and it tries to cast it to a soldier AI controller. When it does that, it doesn't need to get the control pawn anymore, so this is actually doing nothing anymore. That's not doing anything. See, a little bit of cleaning up goes a long way. What we need is is equal to 0 if a branch. So basically saying here if it's equal to 0, then we want to set the enemy to be 1, else the enemy is 0. Now with that in mind, we no longer need this split off that I've got going here. What have we got here? Game state. Get tile grid by player ID. Ooh. Yeah, it's exactly what we want to do. So let's bring that over here. Let's break all its links to everything else. What's this big green thing that's going over? Okay, so instead that's this enemy player. So we're getting the enemy player's tile grid, then what are we doing? Then we're getting their underground tunnel. get tunnel trigger. Okay, I'll leave. I'll leave that there as an error message, just so I know if something's gone wrong. That gets the surface point and then sets current target to it. I actually would rather that I have a preferred method. Doing this now. Set value. What is this? Target net. Yeah. So set value as vector. Sugar. I need to pick all that up. I'm kind of just whizzing through this and not really explaining it. I'll give a brief explanation of what I've done at the end of it. But basically here I'm cleaning up some old work that I had. But it's not that simple as well. That needs to go. Don't need that anymore. So value is vector. The value is target location. Oh, sorry. It's not happy with me because of this, but that's okay. Surface point. So I'm getting the location and then get random point in navigatable radius. Okay, so there we've got, basically it's getting it a point in the navigatable radius now, and it looks, and this is a lot more readable than it was before, easy to digest. BNPI. Yeah, the wires. It's when you're doing complicated things in the blueprints. Eventually, the plan is to actually convert all the AI commands, such as this one, into C++ code, which will be a lot more readable if you're a programmer. But at the moment, it's all been done in blueprints have an overhead with them, so we don't want to keep them in blueprints forever. And when we are sure of how the AI is operating, we'll turn it into code. It's a bit easier to kind of work quickly with blueprints. So whilst we're still not got everything properly fixed down, we're just using blueprints to get through it. Okay. So that should work now. Target near enemy OG exit. And then instead of the Swarm 2, Swarm 2 is our own movement code, which it gives a nice spread out to the ants, but it's not finished yet as such. So yeah, I'm just going to use a move to for now, and we're just going to go to location, target location. There we are. Target near enemy overground exit. Okay. Okay. Ooh. Did I actually set the radius? That's not what I meant to. Although, that's interesting. Yeah, I've just spotted something. This is the transfer to the enemy underground, but this is actually meant to be in a random location in navigation radius as well. Probably with about 300 radius. Funny the things you spot. No, it was the radius here. I think it's 500. I've let them. So that's just setting the how close to the center the target point is. So now when the ants come out and attack, they should go to random points. Yeah, rather than my ants have dealt with the problem. Okay. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. Right, so we have these enemies coming at me now in waves. Now I'm going to need some time. As a player, you'll need some time to set up. You'll also need some resources available underground. You will need the ability to choose when you go to the overground, so the enemy's not going to attack you until you start going to the overground. You also then need a reason to go to the overground rather than just defeating the enemy, and that's some overground resources together. So there's a few things coming up which are going to be important. So maybe it's time I actually design this underground section for the player, because at the moment all it is a very basic empty area. So yeah, let's get into underground level design. One of the things I've done most on these live streams. I do like a spot of underground level design. So I don't want the underground to be too complicated, because I want the player to head to the surface relatively quickly. So I'm going to get rid of all the black ants in this level. worker as well. Unless the worker's on the individual underground level. Actor. Oh, the worker's already on the underground level. He can stay there then. These food items as well. Poppy seeds. Where are they? It's on the persistent level, so they need to go. Okay. Right, I'm going to open up this underground section in its own file. Okay, so this is just the underground, the player's underground section. I don't want particularly to have much dug out. Whether the player could do that themselves. And the player's not going to need. Well, they will need, but they can build it themselves. Right, so the player's going to start with their queen, 3 workers. It's the standard start setup, and this tunnel built over to what we know is there in the persistent level, which is the tunnel to the surface. All that'll be set up at the start of most levels, so there'll be a clear run between the surface exit and your queen. But now we need some underground resources for the player to set up. First of all, let's give him a couple more workers. The player needs a couple more workers. As I do this, I need to link them to the tiles. So, what's this guy called? It's Formiciraptor Worker and tile 291. So this is linking the workers to the individual tiles. So you have one that worker belongs to that tile essentially, and no other ants will spawn until that worker dies from that tile. Yeah. So 310. All right. Okay, so next we're going to need a few resources. Just the poppy seeds for now. Okay. So let's duplicate the poppy seed. Rotate it a bit and duplicate it. Move it. Rotate it. Duplicate it. Move it. Rotate it. Select all of them. Oops. Duplicate them all. Move them all. Rotate them all. Duplicate them all. Move them all. Rotate them all. Okay. So that's a clump of poppy seeds we've got now. A gaggle of poppy seeds. So let's put these in a few locations so the player can fish them out as such. That should be enough to get a start area going. Move some over here as well. We'll put some being guarded by creatures, so the player has to deal with the creatures in order to supple the delicious fruits of the poppy seeds within. Oh, and also killing the creatures provides extra resources as well, of course. Trying to work out how much I should actually give the player. Probably not too much. Maybe there should be a couple of just small patches. Okay, so that'd be enough to get the player off the ground. Also, whilst we're here, I'm gonna do some of the side tiles. Just make the map look a bit more interesting. Obviously, don't want to put too many. I don't want to build too much into the area because the player needs to be able to tunnel out their own caverns. I will build a couple of interesting shapes, which will have some things in. Right there. You look at that and you think, "Oh, I wonder what's there." Looks like there's something there. Nearly all the way around. So yeah, the level design thought process when you're putting the underground together is kind of juggling how much you want the player to be able to do underground before they have to go above ground. You don't want it to be too much because you don't really want players spending an hour faffing around underground. They should be on the surface probably within 10 minutes of the game. But at the same time, you do want them to be able to explore and go through these interesting things. So I'm going to turn this into a cavern, which means as soon as you destroy the tile next to the cavern, the whole cavern will open out. And what I want to add there is a tile surfer. Find that. I know where it is. Just here. Now, a tile surfer may seem like a bit of an odd concept, because it is. But essentially, when it's dug out, it becomes a creature. That's all we really need to know. It's already set up to be these Devil's Coach Horse, so I'll leave it as that. I don't intend to make it anything else at the moment, just a couple of basic creatures. I don't really want to go too far with designing this underground at the moment, because this is just a test. And obviously all this will take time at the test. So we've got an underground area for the player. Next we want to set them up with some resources. So to the surface. Now the game actually already has a surface gathering system, but it's a bit glitchy at the moment and I need to improve it. So what it currently does is it kind of, well, with a surface resource, I want there to be a limit of how many ants can actually be gathering it at any given time. Basically, so you don't just send all your workers out there to gather the whole thing in one go. What we want is a stream of ants running backwards and forwards to it. Best way to do that is to make it take time to gather the resource and have a limited amount of ants that can gather it at any one point. Now, to limit that, we probably just want basically a register almost on it of how many ants are gathering from it at any time. So we'll probably work with that method rather than the current one that I've had, which is gathering points, and an ant has to go to each gathering point and checks whether there's an ant already in the gathering point. That method didn't work so well. So let's have a look at that. Levels. I think there might be a bug on building as well at the moment. Oh, the enemy's arrived, thus ruining me. I definitely need to slow that down. Additionally, they probably shouldn't. Right, at the moment there's something that's being ignored, which is this tunnel to the surface. So this is currently just a temporary object. I kind of threw it together by throwing a few things together, but the idea is that when you want to tunnel to the surface, you say yes there, and an ant's meant to walk over and tunnel it out. However, and until then, he can't be attacked. It's not happening at the moment because I've actually I think that should help. The exit state basically meant it was already open. The idea is that an ant walks over and spends some time digging it. Probably less time than that. And the enemies arrived. Yeah, I'm going to need to look into that. But basically, the level director let's stop it doing anything, like stop it spawning any ants until that's dug out. So the way we do that, in fact, because it's the level, this should be really quite simple. All I need to do is get a reference to that in the level director. I could reference it elsewhere, but there's oh no, you can only do this in the... So I just get it from the game state. So yeah, as an EOTU game state, we get the underground I get tile grid, is it? Yeah, get tile grid by player ID, player 0. Get tunnel, underground tunnel. Oh no, that's just an actor. I need to cast it to exit. So as an underground tunnel, I want to go to tunnel state. So if exit state no, excavated. No, exit state. Whether it's been excavated or not. Right. Is equal to 1. Okay, so this actually needs to be in here. So basically the timer doesn't start ticking until you've excavated the tunnel, until the player's excavated the tunnel. Right, I'm going to end the stream soon. Once I've got this working, I think I'll end this. I think I'll call the stream call it a day for the stream. Once I've got this section working. So if it's excavated, then the timer ticks. So now we shouldn't get attacked. Until the tunnels actually manage to be excavated. Having a quick look at the I'm assuming it's got an internal variable that I can't see from here. Taking forever. Okay. I see what the problem is. Excavate is actually a value from a if I give it an excavated value of 50, that should make a difference. Also, it says if it's greater than 0, it should be. It's not quite right, because if it ever actually became exactly 0, which is what we saw there. Anyway, yeah, thanks for joining me for the stream, guys. I'm gonna end it there. Not that one. That's the one. I'm gonna end it there because I can only keep coding and talking for so long. But no, thanks for joining me. I will put this video up on YouTube in case anyone else wants to look over it or you want to flick over it at any point. So yeah, thanks very much for joining me. There'll be more streams coming up probably Friday next week. I suspect same time, midday British Standard Time on Friday. And we should see quite a few things have developed by then, or maybe not Friday, maybe Thursday. We'll see. So I've got quite a busy week coming up. In general, I'm getting married in pretty much a week and a day. I'm getting married, so things are going to be a bit crazy next week, but certainly the week after things will settle down again. Thanks for joining us, and I'll hopefully see you